Now, moving on to the Oriri, kidnapping, and the wonderful news that 31 from the report this morning, as gathered by this a newspaper, out of 39 of the young children have reunited with their family members. And just to double down on a few points this morning, I know we have talked about a number of things, and it's great to see that on the floor of the Senate yesterday, they also reiterated some important points that have already been made in many quarters, including on this table, the things around continuous psychosocial support for the victims, continuous trauma counseling, ensure that benefits are paid to the unfortunate deaths of some of the officers. I'd like to mention them this morning to give them the recognition that they deserve. Tribute to Lieutenant F.A. Isaac, Private Silas Musa, and also Sergeant Abina John Jerome. These unfortunate, members, and as amongst others, lost their lives and paid the ultimate sacrifice in the cause of rescue of these children. And so, just to mention that, it's mentioned on the floor of the Senate, and to ensure that they receive this support and that their family members receive the death benefits and entitlement that is due to them without any delay. I had also given the recommendation yesterday around the teacher, the head teacher, when she was speaking of the trauma of having to go back to the rural area, that perhaps this is now time for the government, the state government, to show and demonstrate its support. She might not be able to get back into that role, and she's almost close to retirement. So an early retirement might be a good move in this regard, and then full support for her and her family as a way of compensation for the ordeal that they've had to go through. Now, Professor, I think Olawale Olakule, who is the CM, the Chief Medical Director at the Ladoke Akintola University of Technology, where the children were admitted, had come out to say that the other children, about 8 of them who were not discharged, had to still undergo further monitoring. And in the course of evaluation, they discovered that one of the children had a congenital heart defect, which was a hole in the heart. And so this is also raising that awareness that it might be an opportunity, which wasn't detected before. It wasn't caused by the kidnapping. It cannot be anyway. But just to emphasize that the parents were not even aware that the child had this condition before the child was kidnapped. And so just to ensure that the government offers support and to the very full level of medical intervention, recovery, recuperation, that they would bear the cost of that, and this child can at least get that lifeline based on what has happened. A quick comment on the call of the governor to have United Nations intervention, and many quarters there have been dissensions, some people in alignment, but just to say that this wouldn't be the first time the United Nations is conducting an independent investigation into mass kidnapping, especially when it involves children. And it is important to know that it is one of the 6 grave violations where there's mass abduction of children, especially within armed conflicts. They did it during the Chibok kidnapping. They released a report around that. During the Kankara boys kidnapping in Kaduna State, they also had an independent investigation. So it is not new, and it is not against or violating the sovereignty of the nation Nigeria. But I'll rest now because I know that we have a lot more to talk about, Rufai.
Very good. So as we talk about all of this, please, can we now put pressure on the Askra Uba case? It's as if we're not even talking about it enough. And it's as if the news cycle had left them. And I think it's unfair that while we're talking about the case of or your children, we're not making enough case for the Askra Uba. So what is the federal government going to do as regards the Askra Uba case now? They too, they are Nigerian children. They deserve a right. We need to be able to advocate and speak up for them. The federal government launched an operation. What is the operation? What's the deal with these Askra Uba children? Because except they are released, we can't. And not even only Askra Uba. And like I said before, this is the time for the federal government to have a glossary of all these kidnapping cases, so we even know how to tackle them. Askra Uba, Woro, they're still missing. Yeah. Kwara, they are still missing. Have they returned the dead body that they kidnapped? I think the dead body has been, I heard the case that it's been, but people that are still missing them. All that part, we should have a glossary, we should have a database. Then we should plan this action to be able to bring parity back to these people. Secondly, what was the engagement with the parents of these children? Because I'm shocked that now they're saying they want to take picture and evidence and all of that to be able to, by now, The only way kids should be allowed to be reunited with parents is if they have DNA samples. So by now, even the parents that came, they should be able to take DNA swabs and do DNA matching. That's where we can only know the authentic one. This one that they said they have a list, we don't know how they generated the list, we don't know the numbers, we don't know the people. Should be the only way we should return, because we don't want a case where people will come, they will take kids, they will say names are different and all of that. I mean, since they're in the hospital, they can as well have, DNA sampling of all of these people. To take DNA swab, should that be rocket science? And also match it with the people. And this should be the processes. So a day before they come and say they reunite them with the people that want to come and claim the children, they should have had their DNA swab. And say, okay, you lay a claim to such a child. Does the DNA match? At least, so I just hope we don't have such a case where they gave a child for somebody to another person. Because that will make this end badly. So we should be careful. Psychosocial support, we are not also talking about the family of the dead people. What are we doing? By now, we too should be there in the homes of the dead people to see how they are doing. The attention should not only be on the living. The man that was beheaded, has his body been recovered? These are the questions we should be asking. Has he been given a proper befitting burial? I know the first person that was killed when that incident was given a befitting burial, media covered. But the deacon that she talked about that was killed, the two people, have they been given proper befitting burial? What are we also doing for the families of those ones? As we're also using one eye to think about Askira Uba. What's it called now? The case of the Oyo State and the investigation by the UN. Ayo, we are not saying UN cannot investigate. We are not saying they can write reports. But what Seyi Makinde is calling for is based on politics. Let's not deceive ourselves. They are two different things. We know the matter has been politicized for the start, but I don't care much about plus Seyi Makinde and President Tinubu, because you see, when they were both in bed winning elections for each other in the last election, there were no problems there. So it's not a problem. And why I keep making that point is, see, Ayo, they've been kidnapping people, they've been killing people. Sunday Igboho has been crying. So for Seyi Makinde to come out to say that it was after he declared his presidential ambition, as far as I'm concerned, that's politics. Your presidential ambition has got nothing to do with it. All right? When Sunday Igboho was crying all that time that they're killing people, Seyi Makinde was not talking about presidential ambition then. So for him to have the evidence to say, why is it that it was when I declared my presidential ambition? No, let's not bring politics into it. Let's focus on our focus. UN, yes, they can do their reports and everything and investigate. It's not a problem. But on Seyi Makinde's own, I support Seyi Makinde on some things, but some things I call him out. This one is just pure politics. I also do not support the federal government. I've heard they have politicized this team and now they have shot Seyi Makinde out of the light in all of this. It is wrong. I mean, we see when we have this joint collaborative work in some other states, you see that the state government works with the federal government. And the first port of call after the release is always the governor's place. But you shot Seyi Makinde out deliberately. It was after public outcry, days after you now took them to governor's house. No, that's not the way it's done. And the governor has an impute. So, but whatever fight they are fighting, it doesn't concern me.
All right.
Because when they were both in bed winning elections in Oyo State, it doesn't concern me.
All right, okay.